Hey everybody, welcome to Why Am I Yelling? I am Krista Rizzo, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. I have had this message inside of me for a long time that I've wanted to get out. And back in January, I had the opportunity to do that by presenting a TED Talk, a TEDx Talk in Andrews, South Carolina. And it is now over 2 months later, and the talk has not been released yet. And I really feel like the message is important. And so I'm going to buck the rules probably and share this message with you by reading to you my TED Talk and sharing with you the slides that I use to go along with it. I think right now we are in a time where we can all use some support from one another. We can forego uh, the need for self promotion, and we can rely on helping humanity, because that in the end is what's going to get us through this. Helping each other, supporting each other, lifting each other up, being able to communicate with one another, even if it is via Zoom or social distancing or FaceTime or however you're talking to your people, staying in contact, keeping that human connection even when we can't touch one another, which is really hard for a lot of us. I'm a hugger. I like to touch people. So I think that right now, I think talking about our feelings and being vulnerable with each other and helping one another through this challenging and uh, unprecedented time is really important. So I'm going to share with you my TED Talk. Uh, when it actually comes out, you can compare side by side because they're going to be very different. I probably missed some of it in my talk because I tried to memorize it and it didn't work. But I think I got the point across. Everybody said that I did. I looked much different that day. I was standing on a stage wearing a much more professional outfit than yoga pants and a black t-shirt, which seems to be my uniform these days. My hair was done and I had much more makeup on. But I think that doesn't matter. I think what does matter is being able to share with you what needs to be said, as opposed to all the, proofiness. So we're going to do this now and talk about this information that is super important. And we're going to talk about faith because we need a little faith right now. The title of the talk is Overcoming Fear: What Happens When Faith is All You Have. Faith, the first definition in the dictionary, says complete trust or confidence in someone or something. And that someone is you. You see, we're all born with faith, that internal belief system that we rely on to make good choices or to believe that we can accomplish a goal that we've set. The kind that lives within us, the kind we feed, not the kind that we are taught. Subconsciously, we rely on our faith every single day, from the small things like believing you can get from point A to point B unassisted to the big ones like a new job change or a relationship hurdle. Faith even gets us through the moments that pop up unexpectedly and overwhelm us with fear. Deep faith eliminates fear. Say hello to 1990 17-year-old me with the hair. I mean, can you believe that hair? That actually is my real hair, for the record. This masterpiece that you see before you, this takes work. But we are not here to talk about my hair or the fact that I still, to this day, don't look a day over 17. We are here to talk about the quote that I chose to put in my high school yearbook my senior year. Deep faith eliminates fear. Yes, I realize it's ambitious for a 17-year-old, especially when my classmates were using quotes like, and now for my next trick and party on. But for as long as I can remember, I have leaned on my faith. I have worked at creating a belief in myself and my abilities from a very early age. I can find the silver lining in all the clouds, and that is all because of my faith. I've used faith as a guide to overcome rather than give in to fear. And now, whether or not you believe in something bigger, It all starts from within. You make the choice to believe you can confront your fear. You believe you can overcome it. You say to yourself, I can do this. And so I'm going to share with you two stories. One that I had absolutely no control over, and one that I did. And you might be surprised by which one I had a harder time overcoming. September 11th, 2001, quite possibly one of the most beautiful days in New York City ever, to this day, ever. I can remember stepping outside to go to work, pausing, looking up at the sky and exclaiming out loud, "Hello, gorgeous!" The air was crisp, the temperature was warm, and the sky was crystal clear. For those of you who remember that day, because it was 18 and a half years ago, it's so crazy to think that it was that long ago now, you probably remember where you were, what you were doing, who you were with, what you were eating, what you were wearing. I can tell you every single one of those things, and I can tell you that I had to dig deep that day and rely on my faith to help me through it. And most importantly, to help me help others get through it. I guess you would call me an official survivor of September 11th. My name is on the World Trade Center Health Registry because at the time, my husband Will and I lived only 2 short blocks away from the Twin Towers. We had recently moved to a brand new apartment in a beautiful building in a neighborhood that we were eager to explore. And we'd only been married for a few months when our world was changed forever. That morning, I was in my office in Midtown Manhattan when a friend called to check in on my whereabouts. After speaking with her, I immediately called home because I knew Will was commuting out of the World Trade Center on the PATH train to New Jersey, where his office was. So I called home, and of course, I got the answering machine, and after talking into it for a few seconds, he picked up and he said, "I'm in the shower, what's up?" And so I asked him to go to the window and look to the left, because when you live so close to something so massive, you feel like you can reach out and touch it. And when he did, he said, "Oh, I have got to call you back." Click. And now that was not the response I was looking for. And you might be saying, wait, what? Why did he hang up on her? But in his defense, he is a journalist. And so after he did what he had to do, he got dressed, he called work, he ran outside, he took some pictures, he took this picture. He called me back so we could figure out what our next move would be. We agreed that I would stay in my office and he would come to me. The last words I spoke to him were, "Get here now." My fear had surfaced. But instead of sitting at my desk worrying and wondering, what if, I turned my attention to taking action, to helping others get to where they needed to go, to keeping vigil with my coworkers around the one television we had in our office, to repeating over and over out loud and in my own head, "We will be okay." You see, there was not one moment when we were not in contact that I believed he wouldn't walk through those doors. It was never an option. Not while I watched with my own eyes the horror that was happening to my city, to our home. We had too much to do. We had a life to build, we had adventures to go on, and we had babies to have. And even when the fear kept trying to get in, I would push it away because I believed so strongly that he was going to do everything in his power to get to me. It was well after 3 o'clock in the afternoon when he finally showed up and walked through those doors, exhausted and emotional. And because we did live so close to ground zero, we were displaced from our home for 10 days. And when we were able to go back in, and in an effort to help rebuild our neighborhood, we made the choice. Rather than to relocate, we decided to stay because faith was greater than fear. And almost 4 years later, in that very same apartment, fear slapped me in the face at a time when I thought my first emotion was going to be joy. How many of you celebrate St. Patrick's Day? In New York City, it is a very big deal. We have a huge parade that goes up Fifth Avenue, and if it falls on a weekday, we go to work which usually means ducking out early with our friends and our coworkers to go celebrate the luck of the Irish at our local watering hole. And because I'm not one to pass up a fun time with friends, I participated, maybe even a little bit too much that evening. You can imagine my state of being out of sorts and not feeling 100% the next day, except that feeling lasted a little bit too long. And by the evening of March 18th, 2005, I was convinced something else was causing my discomfort. After dinner, I decided to take a bath, and during my bath, a little voice told me to check something. And so I did. And a few minutes later, my uneasiness was confirmed. I was pregnant. Now, most of people, when they find out they're expecting, especially for the first time, they get excited. However, I got scared. The first thing I thought was, what are we going to do? I thought for sure I had more time, and clearly life had other plans. So there I was, standing in the bathroom, dripping wet, staring at a positive pregnancy test in full-on freakout mode. So I wrapped myself in a towel. I marched shaking into the living room where my husband was sitting quietly in his chair, bathed in soft light, reading his newspaper because smartphones were not a thing back then. And I show him this stick, something he'd also never seen before. And I said, now what are we going to do? And after taking a few seconds to digest what was happening, he jumped out of his chair, he took me in his arms, and he said, what are you talking about? We are going to have a baby. This is amazing news. Still not convinced, I followed up my first question with, what are our parents going to say? Because to this day, I still think I'm a teenager. To which he replied, Krista, we are 32 years old. We've been married for 4 years. They are going to say it's about damn time. And I'm about 100% sure that's what my father said. Instead of being excited in that moment, I allowed fear and doubt to be my first emotions. My mind immediately went to the what if. What if I'm not a good enough mother? What if I don't bond with my baby? What if my pregnancy is awful? Oh my God, I'm carrying another human being inside of me. What is happening? Later on, I looked in the mirror and I called upon my faith. And I said to myself, what is wrong with you? This is amazing. You are going to have an opportunity to shape a life, to teach kindness and compassion, love and consideration, to raise a good human, to do the best that you can. I still remind myself of this every single day. And because karma wanted to drive that point home, our firstborn son Wyatt arrived on my 33rd birthday. We are connected in more ways than one. And clearly, I didn't let fear get the better of me in the parenting department because 6 years later, our second son Elias arrived. And there we are on Halloween. Here's the thing. Life can get messy and complicated and difficult to navigate. That is 100% sure. It can become easy to give in to the fear. And that's not uncommon. Fear shows up for us in a lot of different situations. Depression, anxiety, addiction, a bad health diagnosis, a toxic work environment, the death of a loved one. And because fear does not discriminate, not every situation where it shows up has to be bad or challenging. We can experience fear in good times too, while we're on vacation, when we're making a major purchase like a home. Heck, sometimes fear kicks in when we're saying goodbye to our kids as we kiss them goodbye for the day. The important thing is that you know how to handle it by believing in your faith. One of my coaching clients was going through a career transition, and a few months ago now, she was afraid to apply for a new job. Her fear had kicked in. Her what if had surfaced. She wasn't sure she was worthy enough or had enough experience, and so we had to put a stop to those thoughts. We dialed it back and we started talking about what she could bring to her opportunity. And by the end of our conversation, she had leaned into her faith, into her belief in herself. And she found the moment to submit her resume. And now she has that job. Your faith starts with you. And that means you have to have a strong relationship with yourself, because that is your most important relationship. You wake up with yourself in the morning and you go to bed with yourself every night. You know you best. Make yourself a priority. Be kind to yourself. Practice self-care. Have a thirst for knowledge. Be a mentor. Give back. Treat yourself as well as you would the most important people in your life. And when you do that, faith becomes contagious. Fear limits. Faith frees. Faith can change your life, and faith can change the world. That was my TED Talk. And I think that that is a very good message for us right now. Faith can change the world. Our belief in ourselves can change the world. If you believe you can do something, then do it. Make an attempt to put forth the effort to make that happen. Create change. Be the change. Don't let your fear overcome your willingness to do something. Look fear straight in the eye and say, I can do this. It's going to take work. Yes. It's going to take commitment. Yes. It's going to take conviction and a belief in yourself that you have probably never had before. But you can do it. I believe that. We start businesses every day. We have children. We are successful in our relationships. We are curing diseases every day. And that's because somebody said, you know what? I can do this. And so can you. And so together we can stay home and help combat this crazy pandemic that we're all dealing with right now. And we can support our friends by calling and texting and staying in communication. And we can strengthen our bonds with our loved ones who we are in quarantine with by being present and finding our faith in ourselves and creating energy and atmosphere that is positive and uplifting, and using tools and techniques to work on our mindset and strengthen our resolve for getting through this. I believe that we can do that. I know we can do that. And so that is why am I yelling for today. Overcome your fear. And if you need any help doing that, I am available. Hit me up. I'll be back here tomorrow, I'm sure, with something else to say. So have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you then. Mwah.